My mother was a librarian. She would tell me stories that she came across that she found really interesting. She told me the story of Henry Box Brown, who was an enslaved man who mailed himself to freedom in a box, had a box built, and climbed in, had someone nail it shut, put postage on it, sent him from Virginia to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so when they opened the box, he was free because he was across state lines. And that was the impetus for everything, because that story blew my mind. That story, I couldn't believe that that really happened. And then I couldn't believe that I didn't know about it. Like if that actually occurred, if that was true, how could I have never heard of it? And I would talk to my friends, and none of my friends had ever heard of it. And that just seemed insane to me. Because not only was it an amazing story of such triumph and such determination and all of this, but even just the visual of it seemed like, wouldn't you tell kids this? Isn't that something that, you know, the image that children would be told and remember? And so it hadn't been. So I set out to do that, and that started with that. And then because of that, I just started to uncover more and more stories that were just incredible and accomplishments by people of color that you didn't hear about.
She squinted, and for a few seconds...
My name is Daniel José Older. I'm a writer, science fiction and fantasy. I write books for middle grade, young adults, and adults. In the school system in general, in education, we have a very strict and conservative idea of who exactly has the power and who should have the power in the classroom, who is the expert, you know, who gets to say what is and what isn't, who essentially determines the truth. What we're doing is getting literature to live up to do what it's supposed to do, which is tell the truth. That's the job of literature, and it's a job that literature as a whole has failed at for hundreds of years. You know, the whole Western canon is rife with horrible stories and monstrosities of who we are as people of color, erasing who are lesbian, gay, transgender, you know, creating images of women that are flat, that are completely unreal. These legacies live on in the way that we move and walk and treat each other and think of ourselves. So in many ways, we're enacting a kind of revolutionary counter-narrative just by telling the truth.
I think there were probably so many things in my life that I thought were one way as a child and grew up to find they were different. My birthday's in October, early October. So, you know, I always felt good that, you know, Columbus Day sometimes fell on my birthday, like that was a good thing. And I think that was somebody who was really heralded as heroic when I was a child. And it wasn't until I was, you know, much older, that I started hearing the whisperings about Columbus being, you know, oh, he's not so much of a hero. Years went by, and I looked into some of it myself and found that he was a really despicable person. I mean, a really horrible person. And this is somebody who we still celebrate.
Just by saying, look, we are here, we exist, we have complex humanities and stories, you know, we have many different tragedies and triumphs and comedies, and all these things are true for us too, and now we will be on the page. That includes in fantasy literature. For me, that's my entrance point. I was a young nerd of color looking for myself and failing to find myself completely, and felt acutely the heartbreak of not finding myself, that erasure. I write what I see in the world around me. These are the power dynamics that are at play. These are the people and the faces that I see. These are their truths and their stories that I hear when I walk down the streets of Brooklyn. My job as a writer is to tell that truth, and especially if I find it to be an untold truth, an uncomfortable truth, whether they're emotional truths, racial truths, truths about history, about this country. That's exactly what we're supposed to do, and that's what we've failed at for so long. So that's what I'm here to do.
I'm doing the story of Bessie Coleman. It's called Flying Free, the Bessie Coleman story. It's about the first black female aviator. In the 1920s, when there was so much gender discrimination and racial discrimination, Bessie Coleman, who's black and Cherokee, decided she wanted to fly, and nobody would teach her how to fly, so she ended up going to France to fly. So this is somebody who came up against such incredible obstacles. We do know about Amelia Earhart. We know a lot about her. But Bessie, you know, the fact that instead of throwing in the towel on it, that she actually decided, let me go to a foreign country. And the world wasn't as small at the time. It wasn't like she could just hop on a flight and do it. You know, she had to take a boat. She didn't know anyone there. She didn't know the language. She didn't know anything. I think that it's just a really important story to tell, to give that to children, to know what they're capable of, which I think she really embodies that. People are becoming more and more active with saying we want to find out the truth, and we don't trust that everything that we've been fed is necessarily correct. We're seeing more and more of that, but if we can do that, I think it's going to help us heal. Hopefully impact the way children, and as they come up, view race. You know, I think it'll affect them. It'll affect them differently to see the accomplishments of these people.